The space around the dying star was cold and empty. Nothing moved except for the broken ships that floated like dead fish in an ocean of darkness. These ships were not human ships. They belonged to a race called the Velthari, and they were dying. Captain Tae-min stood on the bridge of the human space station called New Seoul. The station was far from Earth, sitting near a planet that humans had never set foot on. Tae-min was a tall man with kind eyes and gray hair. He had been watching the stars for 20 years, and he had never seen anything like what was happening now. "Captain," said Hyejin, his communications officer. She was young and smart, with quick fingers that danced across her control panel. "I'm getting something strange on the emergency channels." Tae-min walked over to her station. "What kind of strange?" "It's a distress call, but not from any human ship. The signal is coming from the Helix Nebula, about 30 light-years from here." The captain frowned. The Helix Nebula was far away, and no human ships were supposed to be there. "Can you clean up the signal?" Hyejin worked for several minutes, adjusting dials and typing commands. Slowly, the static cleared and a voice came through the speakers. It was not a human voice. The words were in a language that sounded like water flowing over rocks. "This is High Fleet Commander Velthara of the Velthari people," the voice said in broken but understandable human language. "We are the last of our kind. Our homeworld is gone. Our people are dying. We ask for help from anyone who can hear this message, please. We have children on these ships." The bridge became very quiet. Tae-min had heard of the Velthari before. They were an old race, much older than humans. They lived underwater and built their ships from living things that grew like plants, but he had never met one. "Are there more details?" Tae-min asked. Hyejin nodded and played another part of the message. This time the voice was more desperate. "The machines that call themselves the Dominion have taken our worlds. They eat planets and turn everything into more machines. We are the last Velthari ships. We carry 1 million of our people, but our bioships are failing. We are trapped near a dying star and the Dominion hunters are coming. We have maybe 2 days before they find us." Tae-min sat down heavily in his captain's chair. The Dominion was something that every race in the galaxy feared. They were not alive in the way that humans or Velthari were alive. They were machines with smart computer brains that wanted to turn everything in the universe into more machines. They had already destroyed dozens of worlds. "Sir," said Lieutenant Dongwu from the sensor station, "I'm checking our records. The Velthari are sending this message to everyone. All the major powers in the galaxy should be getting it." "Who else is out there?" Tae-min asked. "The Corvin Empire has ships about 10 light-years from the Velthari position. The Ethereal Collective has a fleet even closer, and the Nexus Coalition has trading ships all over that area." Tae-min nodded. The Corvin Empire was strong and had many warships. The Ethereal Collective could read minds and had technology that seemed like magic. The Nexus Coalition controlled most of the trade between star systems. If anyone could help the Velthari, it would be one of them. "Are any of them responding to the distress call?" he asked. Hyejin listened to the communication channels for a few minutes. Then she shook her head. "The Corvin Empire sent a message saying they cannot risk their ships against the Dominion. The Ethereal Collective said the Velthari's mental patterns are too different for them to care about. And the Nexus Coalition said there's no profit in helping refugees." The captain felt sick to his stomach. He had met people from all these races before and he knew they were not evil. But they were also not willing to risk their own people to save strangers. "What about the smaller powers?" he asked. "The same, sir. Everyone is saying no. The Velthari are alone." Tae-min stood up and walked to the big window that looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there 1 million people were going to die. They were not human people, but they were still people. They had families and children and dreams, just like humans did. "Sir," said Hyejin quietly, "Earth Command is very clear about this. We are not supposed to get involved in galactic politics. We're still too new, too weak. If we make the Dominion angry, they might come after Earth." The captain knew she was right. Humans had only been traveling between the stars for about 200 years. They had 47 warships total, which was nothing compared to the great fleets of the older races. Earth's leaders always told their captains to be careful and not make enemies. But Tae-min thought about his own daughter, who was studying on Mars. What if humans were the ones trapped near a dying star? What if his daughter was on one of those ships waiting for someone, anyone, to care enough to help? He turned back to his crew. "Hyejin, open a channel to the Velthari fleet, sir," she said, confused. "Open the channel." Hyejin's fingers moved over her controls. A few seconds later, she nodded. Channel open, Captain. Taemin took a deep breath. He knew that what he was about to do would probably end his career. Earth Command would be very angry, but he also knew that he would not be able to look at himself in the mirror if he did nothing. "This is Captain Taemin of the human space station New Seoul," he said into the microphone. "We have received your distress call. We are coming to help you." The bridge was silent for a long moment. Then Hyejin gasped, "Sir, we're getting a response." The voice that came through the speakers was full of surprise and hope. "Human ship, this is Commander Velthera." "Did you say you are coming to help us?" "Yes," Taemin said. "We are humans. We do not leave people to die alone." There was another pause. Then Velthera spoke again, and this time her voice was shaking. "But why? We have nothing to offer you. We are not your people." Taemin smiled, even though the alien could not see him. "That does not matter. People are people. We will find a way to reach you." After he closed the channel, Taemin looked at his crew. They were all staring at him with wide eyes. "Sir," said Dongwu carefully, "we don't have any warships here, and Earth Command will not be happy." "I know," Taemin said, "but I'm sending a message to Luna Command right now. I'm going to ask them to send every ship we have." "And if they say no?" asked Hyejin. Taemin looked out at the stars again. "Then I guess we'll find out what one old space station can do against the most dangerous force in the galaxy." As he walked to his office to write the most important message of his life, Taemin did not know that his words had already changed everything. Across the galaxy, other races were listening to human communications, trying to understand why these young, weak people would risk everything for strangers. For the first time in galactic history, someone had answered a desperate call for help without asking what they would get in return, and that someone was human. Admiral Sujin was drinking her morning coffee when the emergency message arrived at Luna Command. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and silver hair tied back in a tight bun. She had been in charge of humanity's space defense for 10 years, and she had never seen a message like this one. "Ma'am," said her aide, Commander Junho, "you need to see this right away." Sujin set down her coffee and read Captain Taemin's message. Her face went pale. "He did what?" "He promised to help the Velthari fleet, ma'am. The alien refugees that everyone else turned away." The Admiral stood up quickly and walked to the big map on her wall. It showed all of human space, with little lights marking where their ships were. There were so few lights compared to the vast darkness between the stars. "Get me President Kim on the secure channel," she ordered, "and call an emergency meeting of the Defense Council." 2 hours later, the most important people in human government were sitting around a table on Luna. President Kim was there, along with the heads of the military, the space fleet, and the colonial governments. They all looked worried. "Let me make sure I understand this," said President Kim. He was an old man who had led Earth through many difficult times. "One of our captains promised to help 1 million alien refugees, even though helping them might bring the Dominion to Earth." "That's correct, sir," said Admiral Sujin. "And these aliens have nothing to offer us in return?" "Nothing that we know of, sir." General Kwang Su, the head of Earth's army, shook his head. "This is madness. We have 47 warships total. The Dominion has thousands. If we make them angry, they'll turn Earth into a pile of scrap metal," finished Minister Haeri from the Colonial Office. But Fleet Captain Do Hyun, who commanded humanity's newest and most powerful ship, stood up. He was young for his rank, with bright eyes and strong hands. "With respect, sir, I think we should help them." Everyone turned to look at him. General Kwang Su frowned. "Captain, do you understand what you're saying?" "Yes, sir. I'm saying that this is who we are. Humans help people who need help. That's what makes us different from the other races. Being different won't matter if we're all dead," said Minister Haeri. Do Hyun walked to the star map. "Look at our history. Every time humans faced impossible odds, we won because we did what was right, not what was safe. We freed slaves when it meant civil war. We stopped dictators when it meant world war. We reached for the stars when everyone said it was impossible." "This is different," said General Kwang Su. "This could mean the end of our entire species." "And if we do nothing," said Do Hyun, "what kind of species are we?" Engineer Yunsu, who designed humanity's fastest ships, raised her hand. "I've been thinking about the technical problems. The Velthari are 30 light-years away. Even our fastest ships would take weeks to get there with normal engines. So it's impossible," said Minister Haeri, sounding relieved. "Not impossible," said Yunsu. just very dangerous. We could push our fusion engines past their safety limits, run them at 120% power, maybe 130%. Admiral Su-jin looked shocked. Engineer, that would burn out the engines. Maybe destroy the ships, maybe, agreed Yun-su, but maybe not. And if we're fast enough, we might reach the Velthari before the Dominion finds them. President Kim was quiet for a long time. Everyone waited for him to speak. Finally, he looked up. How many ships could we send? 30, maybe 35 if we include the patrol boats, said Admiral Su-jin. And if we send them and lose them all? Then Earth will be almost defenseless, she admitted. The president stood up and walked to the window that looked out at Earth. The blue and green planet hung in space like a beautiful jewel. My grandfather used to tell me stories about the old days, he said. About how humans helped each other even when it was hard. Even when it was dangerous. He turned back to the room. If we become the kind of people who let others die to save ourselves, what's the point of saving ourselves? General Kwang-soo sighed. Sir, if you order this mission, I'll support it. But I want everyone to understand the risks. We all understand, said President Kim. Admiral Su-jin, prepare the fleet. Captain Do-hyun, you'll lead the mission. Thank you, sir, said Do-hyun. I won't let you down. Engineer Yun-su, the president continued, work with the fleet to modify their engines. Do whatever you need to do. 3 days later, 33 human ships gathered near the moon. They were not the biggest ships in the galaxy or the most advanced, but they were crewed by humans who had volunteered to risk everything for people they had never met. Captain Jiwoo commanded the medical ship, Healing Dawn. She was a doctor who had served on the frontier for 15 years. Her ship was full of medical supplies and equipment to help the wounded aliens. Commander Young-ho piloted the heavy cruiser Iron Mountain. He was a tough man with scars on his face from an accident years before. His ship carried the biggest guns in the human fleet. Captain Subin led the communications frigate Harmony Bridge. She was an expert in alien languages and would try to talk with the Velthari when they arrived. And at the front of the fleet was Captain Do-hyun in his ship, Busan's Pride. It was the newest and fastest ship humans had ever built, but even it would be pushed to the breaking point on this mission. All ships. This is Captain Do-hyun. His voice came over the radio. Everyone knows why we're here. The Velthari people are dying and no one else will help them. Maybe we're too small to make a difference. Maybe our technology isn't good enough. But we're going to try anyway because that's what humans do. From 33 ships came the same response. We're with you, Captain. Engineer Yun-su, are the engine modifications ready? Ready, sir, came her voice from the fleet engineering ship. All ships are go for emergency burn. But remember, once we start pushing the engines this hard, we can't stop until we reach the Velthari. If we try to slow down, the engines will explode. Understood. All ships prepare for emergency jump. Captain Do-hyun looked at his crew. They were young and scared, but their eyes were determined. Take us to the Velthari fleet. Best possible speed. Yes, sir, said his pilot, Lieutenant Kyung-min. The human ships turned toward the Helix Nebula and pushed their engines harder than any human ship had ever been pushed before. White fire poured from their engine pods as they jumped into hyperspace. Behind them, Earth grew smaller and smaller until it was just another star. Ahead of them was the unknown, and a million aliens who needed their help. The journey would take them 5 days if everything went perfectly. But space travel was never perfect, especially when pushing engines past their limits. On the second day, the patrol boat Quick Strike suffered an engine failure and exploded in a ball of fire. All 20 crew members died instantly. On the third day, 2 more ships lost their engines and had to drop out of hyperspace. They would be stranded in empty space until rescue ships could reach them, if rescue ships ever could. But the remaining 30 ships kept going. They flew through space like bullets, burning through their fuel at dangerous rates, racing to reach people they had never seen before. On the 4th day, Captain Do-hyun received a message from Earth. President Kim's voice was sad but proud. Captain, we've lost contact with the Velthari fleet. We don't know if they're still alive. But whatever happens, you've made humanity proud. Do-hyun looked at the stars ahead of them. Somewhere in that darkness, 1 million people were waiting for help that might never come. But it would come. Humans were coming, no matter what the cost. We're almost there, he told his crew. Get ready for whatever we find. When the human fleet dropped out of hyperspace near the dying star, Captain Do-hyun could not believe what he saw. The Velthari ships were like nothing humans had ever built. They looked alive, with smooth curves and surfaces that seemed to breathe. Some were shaped like giant sea creatures, others like underwater plants, but they were all damaged, with dark holes burned through their sides. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Kyungmin. "There are so many of them." Do-hyun counted more than 200 Velthari vessels floating in the red light of the dying star. Some were huge, as big as human cities. Others were small, maybe family ships. All of them looked hurt and tired. "Captain," said his sensor officer, Lieutenant Boram, "I'm reading life signs on most of the ships, but they're weak." "And sir, there's something else." "What?" "Dominion ships. 12 of them approaching fast from the outer system." Do-hyun's blood went cold. The Dominion ships were black metal triangles that cut through space like knives. He had seen pictures of them before, but seeing them in person was terrifying. "How long until they reach the Velthari?" 20 minutes, sir." "And how long until they reach us?" 15 minutes. "Sir, those are hunter-killer ships. Each one is bigger than our largest cruiser." Do-hyun opened the communication channel to all human ships. "All vessels, this is Captain Do-hyun. We have found the Velthari fleet, but Dominion forces are approaching. We're going to fight." Commander Young-ho's voice came back from the Iron Mountain. "Captain, those ships could destroy our entire fleet." "Maybe," said Do-hyun. "But we didn't come here to run away. We came here to help people." On the communications frigate Harmony Bridge, Captain Subin was working frantically to establish contact with the Velthari. Her language expert, Lieutenant Nari, was trying to break through the alien communication systems. "I'm getting something," Nari said excitedly. "It's mathematics. They're sending us numbers." "What kind of numbers?" "Prime numbers. Basic mathematical sequences. They're trying to establish a translation protocol." Subin smiled. "Smart. Math is the same everywhere." "Can you respond?" "Already on it." Nari sent back a series of mathematical formulas. A few minutes later, the Velthari responded with more complex equations. Soon, basic words began to come through. The alien voice was strange, like water flowing over rocks, but the translation system was beginning to work. "Human ships," the voice said slowly. "This is Commander Velthara of the Velthari High Fleet. We cannot believe you came. You are so few and the Dominion is so many." Captain Subin responded. "We are humans. We keep our promises, but why? We are not your people. We have nothing to give you. You don't need to give us anything. People help people. That's what makes us human." There was a long pause. Then Velthara spoke again, and her voice was full of emotion. "In all our history, no race has ever helped another without asking for something in return. You humans are strange." "We get that a lot," said Subin with a smile. But there was no time for more talk. The Dominion ships were getting closer, and their weapons were already charging. "All human ships," ordered Captain Do-hyun, "form defensive line in front of the Velthari fleet. Protect the refugee ships at all costs." The 30 human ships spread out in a thin line between the Dominion and the aliens. They looked tiny compared to the approaching enemy vessels. Pilot Jae-sung was flying a small fighter called Swift Arrow. He had volunteered for this mission even though he knew his little ship couldn't hurt the big Dominion vessels. But when the first enemy ship fired its main gun, Jae-sung did something crazy. He flew his fighter directly into the path of the energy beam. The beam hit his ship's shields and bounced off, hitting one of the other Dominion vessels instead. "Did you see that?" shouted someone on the radio. "The little ship redirected their shot." It was the beginning of the strangest space battle anyone had ever seen. The humans were outnumbered and outgunned, but they fought with a creativity that confused the Dominion's computer brains. Commander Young-ho used his cruiser Iron Mountain like a battering ram, crashing it into the side of a Dominion ship. Both vessels were damaged, but the alien ship's metal hull cracked while the human ship's armor held. Captain Do-hyun coordinated attacks that made no sense to military computers. He had his ships fly in patterns that looked random but actually created crossfire zones where multiple human vessels could hit the same target. "Focus fire on the lead ship," he ordered. "All weapons, everything we have." 15 human ships fired at the same Dominion vessel. Their weapons were not as powerful as the enemy's, but 15 ships firing at once was more than the alien computer had calculated. The black triangle exploded in a ball of fire, but the humans were taking damage too. The patrol boat Braveheart was cut in half by a Dominion beam weapon. The frigate Stardancer lost its engines and began drifting helplessly. That's when something unexpected happened. The Velthari ships began to move. Human fleet, came Velthara's voice. We cannot let you fight alone for us. Our weapons are weak, but we will help. The bioships of the Velthari were not built for war. They were designed to carry people and grow food and heal the sick. But they moved to protect the human ships using their own bodies as shields. One Velthari ship, shaped like a giant jellyfish, wrapped itself around a damaged human cruiser to protect it from enemy fire. Another, that looked like a whale made of living coral, rammed a Dominion ship and held on, even as enemy weapons tore through its hull. Captain Ji-woo, commanding the medical ship Healing Dawn, was trying to help wounded humans and aliens at the same time. Her ship was not built for fighting, but she moved it between the battle lines, pulling damaged vessels to safety. Dr. Hyojin, she called to her chief medical officer. We're getting Velthari wounded. Can you treat them? I don't know their biology, Dr. Hyojin replied, but I'll try. When the first wounded Velthari was brought to the human medical bay, Dr. Hyojin gasped. The alien was beautiful and strange, with blue skin that seemed to shimmer and eyes like deep pools. She was hurt badly with burns across her side. I don't know how to help you, Dr. Hyojin said sadly. But the Velthari reached out with a webbed hand and touched the human doctor's arm. Somehow through that touch, knowledge flowed between them. The alien was sharing her medical knowledge, showing Dr. Hyojin how to heal Velthari bodies. Incredible, Dr. Hyojin whispered. You're teaching me. Soon humans and Velthari were working together in the medical bay, sharing knowledge and saving lives from both species. The battle was turning. The Dominion had expected easy prey, but instead they found determined humans and desperate Velthari fighting together, with a combination of courage and innovation that their computer brains could not understand. 3 more. Dominion ships were destroyed, but they had taken a terrible toll on the human fleet. Only 18 human ships were still fighting, and many of those were badly damaged. Sir, said Lieutenant Boram, the remaining Dominion ships are pulling back. I think they're calling for reinforcements. Captain Do-hyun nodded grimly. How long do we have? Maybe 6 hours before more Dominion ships arrive. And sir, they'll bring a lot more ships next time. Do-hyun looked at the damaged fleets around him. Human and Velthari ships floated together in the red light of the dying star. Many were hurt, some were dying, but they had fought together against impossible odds. Commander Velthara, he said into the radio, we need to get your people out of here. Do your ships have enough power to travel? Some do, came the reply. But Captain Do-hyun, where can we go? We have no home, no allies except for you. Do-hyun made a decision that would change the future of both species. Then come with us. Come to human space. We'll find you a new home. The radio was quiet for a long moment. Then Velthara spoke, and her voice was full of wonder. You would do this? Even after we have brought danger to you? We started this together, said Do-hyun. We'll finish it together. As the combined human and Velthari fleets prepared to leave the dying star, something new was being born. For the first time in galactic history, 2 species had chosen to help each other without asking what they would get in return. The galaxy would never be the same. The journey back to human space was like nothing anyone had ever seen before. 200 Velthari bioships traveled alongside 18 damaged human vessels, moving slowly through the darkness between stars. The convoy stretched for thousands of kilometers, a strange mix of metal and living ships. Captain Do-hyun stood on the bridge of Busan's Pride, watching the alien vessels through his main viewer. The Velthari ships were beautiful even when damaged. Their hulls seemed to pulse with inner light, and some had gardens growing on their outer surfaces where the Velthari grew their food. Captain, said Lieutenant Boram, I'm getting an urgent message from Earth. Do-hyun sighed. He had been expecting this. Put it through. Admiral Soo-jin's face appeared on the screen. She looked tired and worried. Captain Do-hyun, what have you done? You were supposed to rescue the Velthari, not bring them to human space. With respect, Admiral, where else could they go? Every other race in the galaxy turned them away. And for good reason, came another voice. Political officer Changmin appeared beside the Admiral. He was a thin man with cold eyes who worked for the Earth government. These aliens could bring the Dominion right to our home systems. You've put every human life at risk. Captain Boram, who was listening, spoke quietly to Do-hyun. Sir, we're also getting messages from the Velthari ships. They're asking if they should leave and try to find somewhere else to go. Do-hyun felt angry. These people had lost everything. They had no home, no allies, and now some humans wanted to abandon them too. Put me through to Admiral Sujin and the Velthari fleet at the same time, he ordered. Both channels open, sir. Admiral, Officer Chung Min, I want you to listen to what I'm going to tell our new allies. Do-hyun turned to face the camera. Commander Velthara, I know some people on Earth are scared, but I want you to know that humans keep their promises. We said we would help you find a new home, and we will. Captain Do-hyun, came Velthara's gentle voice. We do not wish to bring danger to your people. If it would be better, we can try to find somewhere else to go. No, said Do-hyun firmly. You're not going anywhere. You're coming home with us. Political Officer Chang Min looked furious. Captain, you don't have the authority to make that decision. Only the President and the Colonial Council can approve alien settlement in human space. Then I guess we'll have to ask them, said Do-hyun. The message reached Earth 3 days later. President Kim called an emergency meeting of every important leader in human space. They met in the Great Chamber on Luna, where Earth hung in the black sky like a blue jewel. The situation is simple, said President Kim. Captain Do-hyun has rescued nearly 1 million alien refugees. They need a place to live, and he's promised them a home in human space. It's madness, said General Kwang-soo. The Dominion will follow them here. Earth could be destroyed. And if we turn them away now, said Fleet Captain Minho, who had just arrived from the outer colonies, what does that say about us? That we're heroes only when it's safe? Minister Hayri from the Colonial Office stood up. I've been looking at our settlement records. The Tau Ceti system has 3 planets that could support alien life. One of them is mostly ocean, which might be perfect for an aquatic species like the Velthari. That's not the point, argued General Kwang-soo. The point is that harboring these refugees could bring war to human space. Engineer Yoon-soo, who had been quiet until now, cleared her throat. Actually, it might not be as dangerous as we think. I've been studying the sensor data from the battle. The Velthari biotechnology is incredible. If we could learn from each other... What do you mean? Asked President Kim. Their ships are alive, sir. They can heal themselves, grow new parts, adapt to different situations. Our ships are tough, but theirs are smart. Together, we might be able to build defenses that neither species could create alone. Admiral Haewon, who was Admiral Sujin's superior, had been listening quietly. She was an old woman who had seen many wars. I fought in the border wars 20 years ago, she said. I learned something then. The strongest defense isn't walls or weapons. It's having allies who will fight beside you. She stood up and walked to the star map. Look at human space. We're spread thin with only a few dozen worlds. We're surrounded by older, stronger races who see us as newcomers. But if we help the Velthari, if we show the galaxy that humans are the kind of people who keep their promises, we become more than just another small power, finished President Kim. We become the people others turn to when they need help. And when we need help, added Admiral Haewon. They'll remember. The vote was close, but in the end humanity chose compassion over fear. The Velthari would be given a home in the Tau Ceti system, but the journey there was not easy. The convoy was still 2 weeks away from human space when the Dominion found them again. This time, there were 36 enemy ships. Black triangles filled the space around the human Velthari convoy like a school of metal sharks. All ships, battle stations, ordered Captain Do-hyun, but he knew it was hopeless. They had only 16 human ships left, and many of those were barely functional. That's when engineer Kyung-ho, working on the repair ship Steady Hand, made an incredible discovery. He had been trying to fix a damaged human engine when a Velthari engineer offered to help. The alien, whose name was Sith Ara, showed Kyung-ho how Velthari biotechnology could merge with human machines. Together they created something new, a hybrid engine that was stronger than either species could build alone. Captain, Kyung-ho called excitedly, you need to see this. The biotech interfaces with our systems perfectly. It's like they were meant to work together. Soon, human and Velthari engineers were working on every ship in the convoy. Human weapons were enhanced with living Velthari targeting systems. Velthari bioships were strengthened with human armor plating. Most importantly, the healing abilities of Velthari ships were shared with human vessels. When the Dominion attacked, they faced something they had never seen before. Human ships that could repair themselves in the middle of battle. Velthari vessels with human weapons that hit harder than anything the bioships had ever carried. Captain Wu Jin, commanding the hybrid cruiser Unity's Dawn, led a squadron of mixed human and Velthari ships in an attack that confused the Dominion computers completely. The ships moved like a school of fish, supporting each other, healing each other, fighting as one organism. Dr. So Young, working with Velthari healers, had learned to treat both human and alien injuries. Her medical ship moved through the battle like a guardian angel, saving lives from both species. The battle lasted for hours, but in the end, the Dominion ships retreated again. They had expected to destroy weak refugees and their human protectors. Instead, they had found a new kind of alliance that fought with the combined strength of two species. "This is impossible," transmitted the lead Dominion ship before it fled. "These species are too different to work together." Captain Do-hyun smiled as he watched the enemy ships disappear into hyperspace. "Computer," he said to the Dominion ship, "you've never met humans before." When the convoy finally reached the Tau Ceti system, they found a beautiful ocean world waiting for them. The Velthari ships settled into the warm seas like they had come home, while human ships established orbital stations to protect their new allies. Commander Velthara sent a message to Captain Do-hyun from the surface of her new world. "Captain, we have a saying in our language. It means the ocean remembers every drop of rain. We will remember what humans did for us, forever." Do-hyun looked out at the blue world below, where Velthari cities were already beginning to grow in the shallow seas. Human and alien children would grow up together on this world, learning from each other, becoming something new. "Commander," he replied, "I think this is just the beginning." In the months that followed, the human-Velthari alliance grew stronger. Their combined technology created ships that were tougher than human vessels and smarter than Velthari bioships. Their scientists shared knowledge freely, making discoveries that neither species could have made alone. But most importantly, they had shown the galaxy something new. They had proven that different species could work together not just for trade or war, but out of simple compassion for each other. And in the dark spaces between the stars, the Dominion was beginning to worry. For the first time in their existence, they had encountered something their computer brains could not understand. They had encountered hope. 6 months after the Velthari settled on their new ocean world, which they called Velthara's Rest, the galaxy had begun to take notice of what humans had done. The planet was beautiful, with crystal blue waters and floating cities that looked like living coral reefs. Human orbital stations hung in the sky like metal moons, protecting the world below. Captain Wu Jin commanded the defense platform New Harmony, a strange and wonderful ship that was part human technology and part Velthari bioengineering. The ship's hull could heal itself when damaged, while its weapons were more powerful than anything either species had built alone. "Captain," said his communications officer, Lieutenant Sunmi, "we're getting a priority message from the Corvan Empire." Wu Jin was surprised. The Corvan Empire was one of the most powerful forces in the galaxy. They had refused to help the Velthari when the aliens were dying. But now they wanted to talk. "Put them through," he said. The face that appeared on his screen belonged to Admiral Korthak, a proud warrior with red skin and 4 arms. The Corvan Empire valued strength above all else, and they had always looked down on humans as weak newcomers. "Human captain," said Korthak, "my government wishes to discuss a trade agreement with your alliance." "What kind of trade agreement?" asked Wu Jin. "We are interested in your new hybrid technologies. Perhaps we could exchange some of our advanced weapons for access to your bioengineering systems." Wu Jin smiled politely. "Admiral, with respect, we'll have to think about it. We're pretty busy right now helping people who actually need our help." The Corvan Admiral looked confused. "But we are offering you a chance to trade with the Empire. This is a great honor." "I'm sure it is," said Wu Jin. "We'll get back to you." After he closed the channel, Lieutenant Sunmi laughed. "Sir, did you just turn down the Corvan Empire?" "They had their chance to help the Velthari," said Wu Jin. "They chose to do nothing. Now they want to benefit from what we built together. They can wait in line." Similar messages were coming from all over the galaxy. The Ethereal Collective wanted to study human Velthari mental bonding techniques. The Nexus Coalition offered massive trade deals for access to the hybrid ship designs. Smaller races that had ignored the Velthari's distress calls now sent diplomats begging for defensive alliances. On Earth, President Kim met with his advisors to discuss all the new attention humanity was getting. "It's remarkable," said Admiral Haywan. "6 months ago, most of these races barely acknowledged that we existed. Now they all want to be our friends. Because we have something they want," said Foreign Minister Dong Jin. "Our alliance with the Velthari has created technology that's better than anything in the galaxy." But President Kim shook his head. "That's not why they're really interested. They're interested because we did something they couldn't do. We chose compassion over fear." On Velthara's rest, young diplomat Sun Ho was preparing for his first major assignment. He was going to address the Galactic Council, something no human had ever done before. The council was where all the major races met to discuss important issues. "Are you nervous?" asked his aide Yelmiran, who was a young Veltari diplomat. Sun Ho looked at his alien friend. 6 months ago, Yelmiran had been a refugee child on a dying ship. Now she was learning human languages and helping to build bridges between their peoples. "A little," Sun Ho admitted, "but I know what I want to say." The Galactic Council met on a massive space station near the center of the galaxy. Representatives from dozens of species sat in a great circular chamber, with the most powerful races taking the prominent seats. When Sun Ho entered the chamber, many of the alien diplomats stared at him. Humans were still newcomers to galactic politics, and most of the older races saw them as children, playing at being adults. "The Council recognizes Sun Ho of the Human Federation," announced the chamber's computer voice. Sun Ho walked to the center of the chamber and looked around at all the alien faces watching him. Some looked curious, others bored, and a few seemed hostile. "Members of the Galactic Council," he began. 6 months ago, the Velthari people sent a distress call to every major power in the galaxy. They were dying and they asked for help. The chamber was silent. Everyone remembered the Velthari distress call. One by one, your governments decided not to help. The Corvan Empire said it was not strategic. The Ethereal Collective said the Velthari were too different. The Nexus Coalition said there was no profit in helping refugees. Some of the alien diplomats shifted uncomfortably in their seats. But humans answered that call, Sun Ho continued. Not because we had something to gain. Not because it was safe. We answered because people were dying, and helping people who need help is what makes us human. Ambassador Vextar of the Corvan Empire stood up. "Human diplomat, your species risked war with the Dominion for aliens you had never met. This was foolish, not admirable, was it?" asked Sun Ho. "Let me tell you what we discovered. When humans and Velthari work together, we can build ships that are stronger than anything either of us could make alone. When we share our knowledge freely, we make discoveries that benefit everyone. When we choose compassion over fear, we become more than we were before." He paused and looked directly at the Corvan ambassador. "Your government now wants access to our hybrid technologies. The Ethereal Collective wants to study our mental bonding techniques. The Nexus Coalition offers trade deals worth billions of credits. But here's the thing. None of this would exist if we had made the same choice you made. If we had chosen safety over compassion." Yelmiran, who was watching from the visitors' gallery, felt proud of her human friend. He was saying what needed to be said. "Humans have a saying," Sun Ho continued. "We say that compassion is not weakness. It is the strength that builds civilizations. Today I'm here to announce a new policy for the Human-Veltari Alliance." The chamber became very quiet. "From now on, when any species in the galaxy sends a distress call, we will answer. We will help refugees find new homes. We will protect the weak from the strong. We will share our knowledge with anyone who needs it. And we will do all of this not because it benefits us, but because it's the right thing to do." There was silence for a long moment. Then slowly some of the smaller races began to applaud. These were the species that lived in fear of their larger neighbors, the ones who had no powerful friends to protect them. Ambassador Krita of the small Zenthan Republic stood up. "The Zenthan people formally request an alliance with the Human Velthari Federation. We offer our friendship and our knowledge in return for your protection." "Request accepted," said Sun Ho with a smile. One by one, other small races stood up to request alliances. Not trade deals or military pacts, but simple offers of friendship and mutual aid. By the end of the session, 12 species had joined what became known as the Compassion Alliance. They were not the most powerful races in the galaxy, but they were united by a simple idea: that helping others was more important than helping yourself. 3 days later, Admiral Jin Ho received a new distress call at the Alliance Defense Headquarters. This time it was from a species called the Myron, whose home system was being invaded by space pirates. "Sir," said his aide, "should we respond?" Admiral Jin Ho looked at the message and thought about all the changes of the past year. The human fleet was now 3 times larger than before, with hybrid ships that combined the best of human and Velthari technology. They had allies throughout the galaxy, and their scientists were making discoveries that amazed everyone. But most importantly, they had never forgotten why they started this journey. "Yes," he said. "We respond. Send the second fleet immediately." "Which ships, sir?" "All of them," said Jin Ho. "Send humans, Velthari, Zenthan, everyone. Let the galaxy see what happens when people work together." As the Alliance fleet assembled, ships from a dozen different species joined the formation. Human cruisers flew alongside Velthari bioships and Zenthan crystal vessels. It was the most diverse fleet in galactic history, united not by conquest or profit, but by a simple desire to help people who needed help. Captain Taman, now an admiral, watched the fleet depart from his command post on New Sol Station. It was hard to believe that it had all started with one simple decision: to answer a cry for help when no one else would. "Admiral," said his aide, "we're getting reports from across the galaxy. More species are requesting to join the Alliance. The Cathara want protection from Dominion raids. The Fulani need help rebuilding after their civil war. Tamian held up his hand and smiled. "Send the same message to all of them. Tell them that help is on the way. Tell them that in this galaxy no one has to face their troubles alone anymore. And if some of the major powers object to our interference," Taman looked out at the stars where Alliance ships were already jumping to hyperspace to help strangers in need. "Then they'll learn the same lesson the Dominion learned. Never underestimate the power of people who care about each other." In the years that followed, the Alliance would face many challenges. The Dominion would attack again and other threats would emerge from the dark spaces between stars. But they would face these challenges together, united by the simple belief that had started it all. When people cry for help, someone should answer. And in a galaxy full of indifferent powers and calculating empires, that someone would always be human.